Madeline Rivera was alone in her apartment when a sudden crushing pain in her chest dropped her into darkness. Clinically dead for over 20 minutes, what she saw on the other side would shatter everything she thought she knew about life, death, and the hidden chains of addiction. Jesus met her face to face, revealed terrifying truths about the spiritual realm, and sent her back with a message everyone needs to hear. This near-death encounter will leave you shaken and changed.
My name is Madeline Grace Rivera. I'm 30 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. I work as a freelance photographer, mostly events, portraits, and some product work. From the outside, my life looked like it was coming together. I had a decent apartment, regular clients, a growing Instagram following, and the kind of independence I always thought I wanted. I was artistic, driven, and completely focused on building a name for myself in the creative world. I believed in God, but not in a deep way. I went to church on Christmas and maybe once or twice when I was feeling down. I'd say a prayer here and there when I was stressed or scared or when something went wrong, but I didn't really live like someone who followed Jesus. I thought I was spiritual enough. I told myself that as long as I was kind, worked hard, and didn't hurt anyone, I was fine. But there was something in me that always felt empty. I lived alone, and the silence in my apartment was often louder than any noise outside. Over time, I started looking for ways to fill that silence. At first, it was just watching a few videos online. Nothing hardcore, just something to take the edge off after a long day. Then it became a habit, a secret one. I told myself it was normal, everyone does it. It's better than sleeping around. I even convinced myself it was healthy. But the truth was, it started to take over. Pornography became my escape. Masturbation became my comfort. Whenever I felt anxious or sad or just bored, I turned to it. It didn't start that way, but before I knew it, it was daily, sometimes more than once. I'd try to stop. I'd delete apps, clear my browser, and promise myself it was the last time. But I always went back. It made me feel ashamed, but it also made me feel numb. And in a strange way, that numbness was easier than feeling lonely. I never told anyone. I buried it deep and kept living my life. Photo shoots, editing, coffee dates, late nights in bed with my phone, and that familiar feeling of guilt that followed. I thought I had it under control. I really believed that. But everything changed on a cold February night. I remember lying in bed, scrolling through photos on my camera, when I felt a strange pressure in my chest. At first, I thought maybe it was stress or something I ate. But then it got worse, like someone was sitting on my chest. My left arm went numb. I tried to sit up, but I couldn't move. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit me like a wave crashing through my entire body. And just like that, everything went black. The moment everything went black, I expected it to feel like sleep, like slipping out of consciousness. But it wasn't like that at all. One second, I was in my bed, in pain, and the next I was floating above it, looking down at myself. I saw my body lying still, my arm hanging over the edge of the bed. My face looked pale, my chest wasn't moving. But what struck me most was that I didn't feel panicked. I wasn't scared. It was like watching someone else. I knew it was me, but I didn't feel attached to it. I felt free. The room around me looked the same, but sharper somehow, like my senses had been upgraded. I could hear everything in crystal clarity, the hum of the fridge, the traffic outside, even the faint music playing from my neighbor's apartment down the hall. I could see through the walls, like they were made of fog. I watched as people went about their evening routines, completely unaware that a woman had just died a few feet away from them. No one knew. I wanted to shout, to wave, to do something, but I couldn't, or maybe I just didn't need to. Then the atmosphere shifted. A soft glow began to fill the room. It started in the corner, like the sun rising inside my apartment, and it grew brighter, warmer, stronger. It wasn't harsh or blinding. It felt like warmth wrapping around me from the inside out. I heard something music, but not like anything I'd ever heard before. It sounded like thousands of voices all singing in perfect harmony. There were no lyrics, but somehow I understood the emotion behind it. It was love, pure love, and it filled the room like water flooding a dry desert. From the center of the light, someone stepped forward. It was Jesus, but not like the paintings or stained glass windows I'd seen in churches. He wasn't pale or soft-looking. He had olive-toned skin like someone who had lived under the sun. His hair was dark and shoulder-length, not perfectly styled, but thick and natural. His eyes were deep and full of life, like looking into the ocean and seeing every wave at once. He didn't glow from the outside. He was the light. Everything else dimmed in comparison. He looked straight at me and smiled, and in that moment, I felt like the most known, most loved person in the universe. "Madeline," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it filled the whole room. It sounded like a whisper mixed with thunder, like it came from everywhere at once. "Come with me." I didn't hesitate. I couldn't. I followed him. As soon as I stepped toward him, we were moving, not walking, not flying, just moving through what felt like a tunnel of light. But it wasn't just light. It was made of stars, galaxies, and color so vivid I didn't have words for it. It felt like we were passing through time itself, like I had stepped out of the world and into something eternal. Part of me was still trying to understand what was happening. Was I dead? Was this heaven? Was this real? But the deeper part was calm. I felt safe. I felt protected. I felt like I belonged here. And yet, somewhere deep in my chest, I wondered, what comes next? We came out of the tunnel and stood in what looked like a blank space. There was no floor, no ceiling, just light around us. But then, almost like a curtain being pulled back, a scene appeared in front of me. It was my apartment, but it wasn't the place I knew. Everything looked twisted, heavy, and dark. The walls were stained with thick black streaks, like smoke or oil had soaked into them. The air felt suffocating, like I was underwater. My couch, my bed, even my bookshelf, everything had this greasy shadow clinging to it. I could barely recognize it, but I knew this was my space. I looked at Jesus, confused. "What is this?" I asked, already feeling the weight of what I was seeing. "This is your apartment," he said gently. "But this is how it looks in the spiritual realm." I stepped forward slowly. The more I looked, the more I noticed movement shapes in the shadows, eyes blinking from corners. And then I saw them. Dark figures, hunched and twisted with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. They were perched on a furniture, standing in doorways, crouched beside my bed. I froze. "What are they?" "Spirits of lust, shame, and bondage," Jesus said. "They've made their home here." I felt a wave of horror wash over me. "But I didn't invite them," I said quickly. "I didn't know. I never meant." He turned to face me, and his voice was still kind, but firmer now. "Madeline, every time you choose pleasure over obedience, you opened a door. Every time you gave in to lust, you gave them permission to stay." I shook my head. "But I wasn't hurting anyone. I was just coping. It helped me relax. It's not like I was out sleeping around." He looked at me with eyes full of sorrow. "You believed it was harmless, but sin doesn't need your understanding to have power. The enemy doesn't care if you meant to invite him in. He just needs a crack in the door." I stood in silence. I didn't know what to say. A dark figure near the bed turned and grinned at me, its mouth full of rotted teeth. "She belongs to us," it hissed. I stepped back, shaken. Jesus raised his hand, and the image changed. We were now standing in front of a large book resting on a stand. It looked ancient but alive, almost glowing from the inside. "This is the record of your life," he said. He opened it, and the pages moved on their own, flipping through scenes from my childhood, my teenage years, and then there I was, 19 in my college dorm, sitting on my bed with my laptop open. I watched myself stumble onto an explicit video late at night. I looked curious, unsure, but I kept watching. Then came the touching, then the shame. "That's where it started," Jesus said. "Loneliness, curiosity. You were vulnerable." Page after page turned, showing the years that followed. The videos became more intense. The habit became more frequent. Soft, romantic stories turned into aggressive, twisted content. I watched myself watch. I saw how it changed my eyes, my posture, the way I carried myself. I watched myself smile less, trust less, love less. "You thought you were in control," Jesus said, "but this addiction was controlling you. It shaped the way you saw others. It twisted your expectations of love. It rewired your brain and dulled your heart." Tears ran down my face as I saw the people I had dated and how I pushed them away because real connection couldn't compete with fantasy. I saw myself alone, night after night, convincing myself it was okay because no one knew. But I knew, Jesus said softly, and so did the enemy. More pages turned. I saw the days I promised I would stop, the apps I deleted, the prayers I whispered, the times I fell again and hated myself for it. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. Jesus placed a hand on the page and looked at me. Madeline, this wasn't just about behavior. This was a spiritual war, and you were trying to fight it with willpower, not with me. I stood there, completely exposed, every secret laid bare, every excuse crumbling. You were trying to survive, I know, he said, but you were being hunted, and you didn't even see it. My voice shook. So this is how the enemy works? Yes, he said. He takes what looks harmless and uses it to destroy intimacy, identity, and joy. He doesn't need you to rebel. He just needs you to settle. I closed my eyes, heart pounding, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. Jesus reached out his hand to me, and without a word, I followed him. The darkness around us faded, and we were suddenly standing beside a river, unlike anything I'd ever seen. The water was clear, but not just see-through, it shimmered with light, as if it was lit from within. The colors moved like waves of liquid crystal, soft blues and golds blending together. It gave off warmth, not like heat, but like comfort. I could feel it reaching toward me, like it wanted to touch me. This is the river of life, Jesus said. It washes away not just the dirt, but the weight you've carried. I stared at the surface, unsure. I could still feel the heaviness on me, guilt, shame, regret. My heart was pounding. Part of me didn't think I deserved to step into something so pure, but Jesus turned to me and gently said, "It's time." I stepped forward. The moment my feet touched the water, I gasped. It felt alive. It moved through me, not just around me. The moment it touched my skin, I felt something begin to lift, like black tar peeling off, layer by layer. I could see it. All the darkness that had clung to me, years of shame, of hiding, of pretending to be okay, it started sliding off my arms, my chest, my legs, melting into the river and disappearing. As I waded deeper, the water rose to my waist. I felt lighter, freer. Every lie I had believed, that I was too dirty, too broken, too weak, was being washed away. It felt like being made new. I began to cry, but not out of pain. It was relief. It was like I was finally breathing after years underwater. Jesus stood nearby, watching me with a look of deep love. "This is what real cleansing looks like," he said, not just covering up the past, but washing it away completely. I looked at him through my tears. I've asked for forgiveness so many times. Why does this feel so different? He stepped closer. Because forgiveness is the beginning, but healing, that takes surrender. True freedom comes when you stop trying to fix yourself and let me do what only I can. I nodded slowly. It made sense now. I'd been asking God to forgive me, but I'd never truly given him control of this part of my life. I had treated it like a bad habit, not a chain around my soul. Jesus said, "Addiction is more than weakness. It's bondage. But I didn't come to shame you. I came to set you free." And in that moment, I believed him. I stood there, still in the water, letting it hold me. I felt clean. I felt new. For the first time since I was a little girl, I felt free. The river faded around us, and suddenly I was standing with Jesus in a new place. It looked like a bedroom, but not like any I'd seen before. Everything was white and gold, glowing with a kind of purity that made me want to lower my voice. The atmosphere felt holy, like I had stepped into something sacred. Jesus looked at me and said, "This is what sexuality was meant to be." In front of us, a husband and wife appeared. They were surrounded by light, not just natural light, but something spiritual. Their bodies were shining, not in a strange way, but with warmth, peace, and love. They held each other with care and tenderness, completely connected in every way, physically, emotionally, spiritually. There was no shame, no fear, no darkness, just trust and joy. I watched as they made love, not in a graphic or uncomfortable way, but in a way that made me understand something for the first time. This was a union. This was worship. It was beautiful. Above them, I saw angels watching, not turning away, but smiling. There was a quiet sense of celebration in the air. This is my design, Jesus said. Sex was never meant to be dirty or hidden. It was created to be a reflection of my love, a covenant, a gift, a sacred joining of two souls. I felt something deep in my ache. I had never seen anything like this before. Then everything changed. The light dimmed, the peaceful scene faded, and another image took its place. It was dark, crowded, cold. I saw people filming, men and women going through the motions of their faces were blank, their eyes empty. There was no joy, no laugh, only numbness, chains wrapped around their minds. Their bodies moved, but their spirits were silent. All around them, demons watched. Some whispered, some laughed, some reached out, touching the people like puppets. It was like a ritual, a twisted offering. This is what pornography really is, Jesus said. It's not entertainment, it's spiritual destruction. What you watched wasn't just pixels, it was pain, it was exploitation. I stared in horror. I couldn't breathe. You were not just a viewer, Jesus said. You were a participant in their pain. Every click, every view, it fed this darkness. It supported their bondage. Tears ran down my face. I didn't mean to. I never thought. He turned to me, eyes full of truth and compassion. Madeline, you are not immune because you're a woman. The enemy doesn't care about your gender. He cares about your soul. I collapsed to my knees, crushed by the weight of it all. But even then, I felt his presence wrap around me, not in anger, but in love. I'm not showing you this to shame you, he said. I'm showing you so you can walk in truth, so you can help others out of the darkness. And somehow, even in that heavy moment, I felt stronger. I was finally seeing it for what it was, and Jesus was still with me. Jesus took my hand and led me back into the garden. The air was warm, full of peace. We walked in silence until we reached a tree with fruit that glowed softly, like it was filled with light. Beneath the tree sat a small scroll tied with gold thread. He picked it up and placed it in my hands. This is your message, he said, for the women who are struggling like you did. I untied the thread and opened the scroll. The words felt alive, burning gently into my heart as I read them. What is done in secret shapes the soul. Freedom is possible. Surrender is the key. I'm not here to shame, but to restore. Tell them I love them too much to leave them in bondage. Tears filled my eyes again. I could feel the weight of his love, not just for me, but for every woman caught in the same quiet, hidden struggle. But I don't want to leave, I whispered. I don't want to go back. Jesus looked at me with deep kindness. I know, but your work on earth isn't finished. You have a mission, Madeline. There are women waiting to hear the truth. I chose you because you know their pain, and now you know my heart. I looked at him, afraid. What if I mess up again? He placed his hand on my head. You will not fight this alone. I will go with you. And then, just like that, the light began to fade. I felt myself falling, like being pulled gently through space and time. The next thing I knew, I was gasping for breath. My chest ached. Voices were shouting, bright lights above me. A paramedic leaned over, eyes wide. She's back. She's breathing. I was in my apartment again, alive. The pain in my body was sharp, but my heart felt different. Clean. Awake. In the days that followed, everything changed. I deleted every trigger, apps, websites, photos. I found a Christian therapist who understood addiction. I called a close friend and told her the truth. I started going to a women's group at church, and slowly I began to share my story. At first it was terrifying, but then the messages started coming. Women thanking me, women confessing for the first time, women saying they thought they were the only ones. I realized then, freedom isn't found in trying harder. It's found in Christ's presence, his power, and full surrender. I've been walking in freedom ever since, not because I'm strong, but because he is. And if you're watching this now, I want you to hear me. Jesus sees your secret. You're not too far gone. Freedom is real. I am living proof. He's coming back. Get ready.